Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Different Angles. It's all about perspective. And I'm Avra. I'm an NLP practitioner, life coach, growth specialist, intuitive healer, and hypnotherapist. In this ever-changing world, we have the possibility to look at roles and challenges that parents and teenagers are facing. I would like to welcome my guest, Andrew Ingram. Hi, Andrew. A warm welcome to you. Thank you for being the voice for teenagers for today.
Hello, Avra. Thank you for inviting me to be the voice from the teenage perspective. I'm 17 years old and a grade 12 student.
Well, we are here to try and share some differences of perspective from both parents and teenagers. So we hope to shed some light on the many challenges that teenagers and parents are experiencing. We want to give you the opportunity to hear what might be going on in both teenagers' heads and also the parents' point of view, their thought process and their understanding and all the relationship challenges that we face as parents and teenagers.
We thought we would try to give some viewpoints from both sides of these very challenging real situations between teenagers and parents to convey the different perspectives. We are discussing and unpacking these mindsets to try and help you to deal with the challenges presented every day.
So what I need to make note of is that we don't give medical advice or have any diagnosis. Our discussions are based on our own thoughts and points of view and personal experiences of how we've dealt with parents and teenagers over the years. So this is purely about Andrew's thinking and my thinking, mine as a parent and Andrew as a teenager. And we thought this might just help you get a better perspective. It's all about perspectives, and we're looking at situations in different ways. So you can look through your own eyes and have your own perspectives and point of view. Or you can look at it from a point of view of a perspective of the other person, in this case, Andrew's perspective, as opposed to mine. What you can also do is you can look at it from a bird's eye view, which is a perspective looking at it as an observer, an impartial perspective. And that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and look at it from all 3 points of view. And whilst we carry on and discuss this, we hope that you will get some tips and ideas of how to deal with your challenges.
Our world has become a space filled with cyber knowledge. Technology provides the advancement of instant learning and information online. How has this changed the relationship between teenagers and parents?
Yes, and under what circumstances are we finding ourselves understanding different perspectives useful when it comes to parents versus teenagers and technology? We wasn't brought up with technology, and you were. So I often have a situation where teenagers are far ahead of their parents. And the challenges do come in here with patience and understanding and allowing the parents to also have a space that they didn't grow up with this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this often causes a lot of conflict between parents and children. And also because of COVID and staying at home and having a lot more screen time, we all are using technology a lot more, not just teenagers, but adults as well. But where do you think there is the disconnect between the parents and the teenager with technology, and why is this causing so much upheaval and issues?
Well, I think one is that because parents grew up in a different time, I don't think they have if you would explain it as a deeper understanding of technology and the way it works. And of course, because we've been brought up with it, then we're more prone to using it. We have a better understanding with it. So I feel that, of course, there's always that stigma that, you know, you're being antisocial when you're always on your phone and stuff while we're actually communicating with other people. So I feel that between the parent and teenager, there isn't an understanding in the middle. And I feel that from the parent side, they don't understand really how the technology really works and how the teenager's using it. And it goes the same for the teenager. They're expecting our parents to understand how technology works and what we're doing with the technology when the parents actually didn't grow up with it. So I feel there is already a different perspective on technology with both sides.
Part for me as a parent that I find frustrating is the intolerance. Is that if I don't understand something on the computer, and I ask, or anybody, any young people, they almost become irritated because, well, you should know this, or Google it, we also have a huge amount as parents of life experience, which you can't replace. That kind of interaction is just something that's really super, So what I'm asking is, where's the middle line? Where do parents who are struggling with technology and children who are so advanced with technology find a comfort space? So in other words, would you find it acceptable if parents said, for a certain period of time, no phones at the dinner table, for example?
Yes, of course.
What about all this extra screen time that we're having? If parents said at a certain time in the evening, that's it, phones down.
I think during any sort of family gathering, sitting at the dinner table, going out for dinner, in those types of spaces, I believe that it is respectful to put your phone aside and communicate with the people around you in real life. But I do feel that also maybe guiding the teenager or just giving advice with technology and stuff. But I do feel that if there's a time where everyone is just either sitting in the lounge or sitting in their own spaces or in their bedroom, I don't feel like there should be some sort of consequence or a rule that you need to be off your phone at this time and this and this, because I mean, your child could also be communicating with a friend or a family member that's either living 5 minutes away or in a different country. And I think that also sometimes technology, negative and positive, it can be some sort of space for the teenager. So I do feel in certain circumstances, phone should be put down and eye contact should be made. And then I do feel that in other circumstances, we should be allowed to go on our phones and our technology.
It's also been scientifically proved that you should be off any screen, any technology, for at least an hour before you go to sleep.
Yeah, definitely.
Even charging your phone should not be next to you. It should be further away from you when you go to sleep. And this has to do with the mind. And I think this is a difficult problem between parents and teenagers, is that they don't understand that there is a period before you are going to have a restful sleep that you need to put your technology or your phone away. I'm looking at that more from a health perspective. Is the teenager just looking at that as, oh, mom just doesn't want me on the phone anymore? And to your point, eye contact, communication has got less and less and less in every family because of the fact that our phones have taken over.
Exactly.
And I'm just as much to blame as you are. It's something that is causing a lack of communication between people, especially between parents and teenagers. Maybe we do need to have rules, and maybe we do need to have more structured time where cell phones are put away.
I mean, that's definitely something that I know about, is an hour before bed off your phone due to blue light and getting a restful sleep. Even though that's in my knowledge, I never listen to it. I'm always on my phone before bed and then turn it off, charge it next to me and go to sleep. I mean, I'm also, as a teenager, it's kind of just like whatever. It doesn't, bother me. And if it does, that's my doing. I don't know. I just feel that putting a type of maybe labeling it as a rule, I think when it's something that you have to do, then it's already, our teenager mindsets are already going somewhere else.
So what you're saying is, so what you're saying is we shouldn't have a fixed rule, but rather a discussion about it.
I think a discussion, an agreement, or even a debate would work better than just implementing a rule straight away without hearing both sides, as we spoke, and coming with an agreement in the middle.
Okay, so it's about open communication again.
Exactly.
And we can't have open communication if we are on our phones.
That is true.
So we can't have that discussion while you're on your phone either. That's fair, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. And
it's disrespectful.
It is, and it definitely is, and I'm sure that there is teenagers also understand that being on their phone during times like that, communicating with people, can be disrespectful.
Okay, so I think we've covered pretty much a very big issue in teenagers with technology, and round it off, I think we could say that what is important is to have discussions and debates about technology and decide amongst the teenager and the parent what would be the best situation for your personal household and how it would affect you, bearing in mind that you both have to be open-minded and that you have to meet somewhere in the middle. You've got to see it from both perspectives.
Definitely.
Okay, so moving on from that, another area that I'm finding is a huge change over the years is a sense of entitlement, freedom, empowerment, and having your own voice as a child. Now, in South Africa, children have been given far more child rights. They've been given the opportunity to have a voice. And that is important when it comes to communication. The part of it that is finding, I think, some discrepancy is the entitlement part. As a parent, I sometimes feel that teenagers think they are entitled. What are your views on that?
I think my main point of view would definitely be, in my opinion, I want to take that stigma away of just because you're older, just because you're an adult, doesn't make, I feel like it's not right that you guys have more rights over us when, if what I'm seeing in teenagers is that there's so much change happening because of us. And I feel that, stepping away that, just because you're older, you get more rights. I feel that, I'm seeing also on social media where we're creating movements and protests for change. And I do feel that then there comes that entitlement. And I feel that we just need to understand that now that we're gaining our voices, we're creating change. Of course, entitlement is going to come along with that. And I do feel that it can be a little bit of a shock for parents and people that are older who lived in a different time when that wasn't around. You didn't have a voice, you didn't have the entitlement. So I feel that when we think of entitlement, it's something that's negative. It's a teenager who is disrespectful and they have a type of power over the elders. I don't believe that. I believe having an entitlement is symbolizing a child that's got a voice, that they are strong, they've got a good mindset, and they're looking for positive change.
I think that's an awesome way of looking at it. I think it's a great perspective. And I think it's also about changing beliefs and changing set beliefs. The way that I was brought up, you were seen and not heard, was a very different environment. And over the years, as I had my children, and as we discuss this today, it triggers yet another point for me that maybe us as parents are not taking enough time, not just to listen, but to hear what our children are telling us. So I thank you for that perspective, because it's a good option of looking at entitlement. There is an area of entitlement that I do find I struggle with as a parent. And that is the point of view that we have to have an iPad, we have to have an Apple computer, we will be entitled to be getting XYZ shoes because they're brand name. I'm talking about more from a financial point of view, where children feel and teenagers feel that they are owed these rewards, pleasures. There are different economic situations with everybody. So a form of entitlement, and you can't disregard the experience of a parent. That is something huge. They've also been a teenager, and they haven't been a teenager in this particular time. But there's basics to growing up that are very much exactly the same. When I was young, it was a time also where you started smoking, you had a drink, you maybe dabbled in a bit of drugs, sex, drugs and rock and roll kind of era. We're very much part of that. And I often think teenagers don't see that. They seem to think that parents are just old-fashioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, looking at it a more, if you would say, basic viewpoint, I do feel that when it comes to that type of entitlement of I deserve this, I need this, I want this, I do feel that there is a point where it does become disrespectful. And I feel that as a teenager, we should take a step back from that and take it as probably a learning curve, as
more than more than a conflict. Yeah,
exactly. And it shows that when you grow up and you leave school and you go into the everyday life, you're not going to get everything for free. Nothing's just going to come into your arms. You have to work for it. And I feel that the entitlement of I want those shoes because such and such, my friends have got that type of phone. I just feel that then it just becomes disrespectful, rude towards your parents who are working to keeping you alive at the same time. So in my opinion, I do feel that type of entitlement is blatantly wrong and disrespectful. And I feel that, they should be taken into consideration that you're not going to get everything for free in life. And working for that, helping your parents out, then you never know what might come your way.
So when you talk about helping your parents out, that brings me to my next topic, which is about chores, pocket money, finances, understanding value. We can have a situation where no chores are done, nothing is done. The bed isn't made, the dishwasher isn't packed. We leave cups and saucers and whatever all over the place. Is that not also part of entitlement? Your parents are working. They are trying to support you. They also have a full day. You're talking about understanding the value of things. And if you want me to understand the value of things as a parent, the first thing I would say is then get part of it. Start sharing, start doing some chores, showing that your contribution to the family's well-being is your chores, is your help. I'm not advocating that teenagers need to end up being the slave or the maid in the house. I'm just saying that there are basic things like making your bed, making sure that if you do have a cup, you rinse it and put it in the dishwasher or wash it if you don't have a dishwasher. Why leave it for mom? What gives you the right to leave your stuff? Mom's cooked a meal. How about helping to cook that meal sometimes? It's bonding time. It's time without technology. It's time together. It's teaching you values. It's teaching you a wonderful skill, how to cook. How wonderful to be able to be a teenager and know how to feed yourself. Yes, we can all grab a packet of crisps or whatever. I'm talking about real cooking and learning about nutrients. And, these are wonderful skills. And I have a feeling that, a teenager will say, well, why should I do that? My comment is, why shouldn't you?
Definitely. I think it's taken me a lot of time to have a different mindset on chores, because I can be honest, as I have been struggling with doing that, and the thought of going to go, just clean the table, lay the table, make supper, help with the shopping. It's a chore. And I mean the negative thing of a chore. It's, I don't want to do this. And I have to admit, I had to sit down with my parents, and they definitely made me think different with that. I feel that what I've taken from it is another, it's another, what would you call it? Another, Ivra, help me with this one. I don't know what the word is. Not a learning curve.
So what you're saying is, when you have a sit down with your parents and you discuss these issues and have good open communication and say, yes, I feel a chore is really just a chore and I don't want to do it. You have to look at it from a different perspective. And that's what is going to help you. When you turn around and you think, you know what, this is actually not just about me. This is about the whole family unit. This is about expressing to mom and dad that I am also prepared to pull my weight and help them with the load. And that shows respect, love, and not just a learning curve, but helping you understand real life. Because when you move out of home, there's nobody there to do it for you.
Exactly. I was going to bring that up as, I feel that, as home is, if you would say, the nest,
the life skills.
Exactly. We're learning the life skills. And once we either find a job, and I'm sure the majority of when teenagers graduate from university or wherever, they will not be straight away some sort of rich business entrepreneur person. They're going to start, if you would say in life, working from the bottom, getting tips from the restaurant. No one else is cleaning up for you. You're going to learn how, from home, learning how to do chores. You're going to be learning how to do that in everyday life. You're going to have your own house. Of course, you're going to have to do that. So I feel that having a positive mindset on chores will make a big difference.
A change of mindset, yeah.
Exactly, changing your perspective. I'm washing the dishes. Why? Not because my parents wanted me to, because I'm helping them.
Exactly. And this is what we talk about. It's all about a perspective. It's how we look at things from a point of view that we are doing a chore and why should we? And we're entitled to just lazy around. We're looking from a perspective of being part of a family unit and helping. So that's very different.
And I'm sure a lot of people can agree with us that they did a lot more chores in lockdown and it made them feel somewhat good because they're living in the same house and, you want to keep the house clean, the living environment that you're in presentable.
Exactly. So let's include in this discussion rules, boundaries, limitations, curfews, and freedom to experience socially.
Mm-hmm.
What are your views on having all these, on having limitations, boundaries, and curfews?
I think it can go both ways, as in for parents and teenagers. I think what's really captivating me and putting me is the boundaries, limitations, and freedom, to express and to experience, social gatherings or whatever. I feel with the limitations and boundaries should come both with parents and teenagers, as in, their room is a boundary, certain private aspects in their life can be a boundary. And also, I feel that is one of the key points in life is experiencing going to parties, going out with friends. That's learning social skills, and that is what you're going to need for everyday life. And halting teenagers from that can cause, drastic effects on their well-being and mental health. So then that's when, the curfew and rules come in. I think worrying about your child, be home at 9 o'clock, constantly messaging them when they're out experiencing, being out with friends, that's a boundary. And I feel that as long as the child is safe, they're being safe, I don't feel that curfew should come into play. I just think that's putting a deadline on the child where to be honest, if I had to have a curfew, that's the only thing I'll be thinking about. Oh, I have to be home at 9 o'clock. Oh, this is what I have to just quickly make
Yeah.
this time up. Exactly that. And I feel that that is a boundary that needs to be almost pushed away.
Okay. So at 16 years old, or anywhere between 13 and 17,
Mm-hmm.
you can't drive. Someone's got to come and fetch you. That person will be your parent or a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a group of kids and the parents rotate. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So is that not looking at it a little bit selfishly as opposed to you stopping me doing what I want to do? Your parents have got to come and fetch you. So is it reasonable for them to say, okay, it's Friday or Saturday night? That's a boundary. You can't go out on Friday and Saturday. You have to choose one of the days. So I'm not stopping you going out. I'm just saying you need to choose, because I'm the one that's sitting up until midnight coming to fetch you. And while you are a teenager and living in this house, unfortunately, you have to rely on me to come and fetch you. From a safety point of view, even Ubers at this stage, I wouldn't like to put my teenager in South Africa in an Uber on their own. Okay, so I'm saying sometimes we so much are spending time seeking our freedom that we're not looking at being selfish with that freedom. So the parent and the child or the teenager have to meet somewhere in the middle. So we say, okay, I had situations with my teenagers between 13 and 18 where I gave them no curfew if they were going out. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What I did do was I asked them for a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm changing the role and I'm saying, okay, you want empowerment, you want your independence, you want your growth and freedom. You tell me what time you're going to be home. And if it is catching a lift with another parent and that parent's happy to stay out till 2 o'clock, that's cool. As long as I know you're safely getting home. If I'm doing the lift and I decide my curfew time is 2 o'clock, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. But if I decide my time is 12 o'clock and I was often fetching more than one child from different families, we took turns, that's also cool. All I'm saying is it needs to be very, very made absolutely clear the difference between freedom, practicality, and respect.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely given me a different idea and viewpoint on that. I mean, yeah, I think once again is coming to that agreement, and if you would say switching the role of also asking what the teenage wants. And that made me think, because maybe there should be certain boundaries, limitations, and curfews on younger teenagers, where if it's, between 18 and let's say 17 to 19, maybe a little bit more lenient, just as they are a lot older, can be more responsible and have an idea of life, if you would explain it like that. Yeah, I never thought of it like, oh, my mom or dad or whoever has to come fetch me. So I never really thought of it like that. So yeah, an agreement with both sides, an organization of, as you said, you never know, there could be another parent who doesn't mind being up until 2. But yeah, I think it depends on the age limit, 13 to 16. And
I also think it depends on the individual, Andrew, because one of the things that we have to take into consideration is a parent's role is to be protective. A parent's role is to be responsible. So if you have a teenager that's going out socially, okay, and you're picking up behavior changes and you're getting red flags and you're realizing either there's depression, there could be a situation of drugs, of alcoholism, we are all, as teenagers, going to experiment, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The problem comes in when your friends become an influence over a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you then as a parent have to do when you're picking up? I've dropped my kids at a party and told them to get straight back in the car. There was no adult supervision. There was alcohol actually getting sold at the party. Okay. And I said to them, this is not going to happen. You're getting back in the car. There's no supervision. There's no, things could get really out of hand. My kids knew they could always phone me. I didn't care what time of the night it was. If there was a problem, I was there to fetch them. Okay. That's not always possible.
Exactly.
Okay. And you could get yourself into a lot of trouble. So parents are being cautious because they've done this teenage thing. They've also done the drinking and the smoking and the drugs and as I said, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So I think the teenagers do need to look at boundaries, limitations, curfews, all these kind of things from a point of view from the mother being or the father being protective and wanting to make sure that you're safe. The space that the teenager's coming from is that you have to allow me to experience this in order to know what I can do. And that comes back to open communication. If there's a situation and you go to a party, my kids did, not all kids do, but you need to be able to come home and chat and talk about it and say, Mom, Hubbly is in right now. Teenagers are all doing Hubbly. So when my kids came home and told me everybody was doing Hubbly, and they asked me if they could have Hubbly at home, I said, I would prefer you to have it at home and make very sure that you know exactly what's going into that Hubbly, no matter where you are. I could have said, well, you're not going to Johnny's house anymore because he has Hubbly.
Definitely.
And this happens a lot with teenagers and parents.
Exactly.
Where they sense a situation, there's a problem, and where's the dividing line? Where does the teenager see that the parent is trying to be protective? And where does the parent understand that the teenager needs to experience these experiences socially to learn? Communication. It's just about communication.
Exactly that. I feel that once again, it always comes down to communication. And if we, by talking socially, of course, we are more to, partying and seeing friends and stuff. I think the boundary with both parent and teenager would be the parent, if you would label it as not being a leech on the child, which is understandable because the parent understands what they were there, they partied and stuff. But I feel that also at a time, giving your child space with that type of stuff is beneficial for the teenager. But yeah, what you were talking about is our parents are not being nasty when they understand what's going on at the party. They just are worried about your well-being, and they have been there, so they know that I'm not putting my child through any harm or anything. So, get back in the car. It's not out of any malicious intent. It's out of care
Protection.
and love. Exactly that. But yeah, and I think boundaries, limitations, communication, and once, then everything will just work out.
And I think another thing that you have to remember is that there's a legal responsibility as a parent.
Exactly.
And teenagers don't see that at all. If they do something wrong, their parents are held accountable. You can't go around breaking the rules, murdering people and drugging it up and whatever without consequences. And this is where I think it would be an important role for children and teenagers to have a contract. How would you feel if your parents had a contract with you? Because it's clear and it states exactly what you need to do, and you both sign it. If there is conflict, a lot of conflict, I'm thinking it's a very good idea to have a contract. And I've suggested this to a lot of parents, where the teenager writes their contract, they sign it, they decide what they're going to do and what they aren't going to do. And if the parent and the teenager are not in agreement, then they can come to a compromise within that contract. Then there are set boundaries, there are set, nobody's guessing what's going on. And just as much as the teenager is held accountable by that contract, so is the parent. They also need a contract. What do you think about that?
I think a contract could be a bit too overwhelming, as it's something that's set in stone. And I feel like a teenager would be way too young for that type of stuff. If
I
it
don't
just,
agree. I don't agree with you
not,
at all, because if it's out of control and there's permanent arguing and conflict going on in a household, the best way to solve that is to have an ear and hear what the teenager wants. They're setting the contract.
okay. Okay.
I'm saying it's a solution to conflict.
Okay.
I'm not saying
Oh,
every family needs to do this.
okay. Then that's understandable, and I would agree if it, comes down with an agreement and communication, and boundaries, limitations.
And that applies
Yeah.
to chores as well. Have an agreement, have it up on the board anyway, because if the continual conflict is about not doing your chores, not listening, being very insubordinate, being incredibly rude, these are areas that happen in every single family home. We all argue with each other. I've got adult children, we still argue with each other, okay? It's just who we are, okay? We can't always agree. I'm saying if it's out of control, if you are not having a harmonious situation at home and everything is just a fight and unpleasant, your contract is what could save you.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with you.
If you have a friend, Andrew, who's having a lot of conflict at home, what would you advise them to do?
That's a thought to think about. I feel communication again. How would I tell them, sit down with your parents and try formulate a contract in a way, an agreement? How would I explain that to them?
So how do you think your parents, because this is about perspective, would respond if you said to them, there's certain things that are not working and I'd like to sit down and talk to you about it, and I'd actually like to draw up a contract between us of the boundaries and the limitations and the acceptances so that we could have a more harmonious relationship at home?
I think the word contract would already make the parents have butterflies in their stomach and very excited. Yeah, I feel that's what I'm also thinking is, what happens if the parent doesn't agree and doesn't accept a contract and feel that they are the ones that have all rights over the child?
That's what the contract's all about, discussing that and getting to some sort of compromise.
And if the parent doesn't want that, if the parent is, let's say that they are extremely strict and they're like, nope, no.
So what is a contract? It's a commitment. So explain it to them. It's about me making a commitment to do what I'm supposed to do. And I honor what I want to do. My point is, Andrew, is that if there's disconnect in a family and there's a lot of issues, and your point is, what would happen if the teenager said to the parents, I'd like to sit down and talk to you and I'd like to discuss possibly doing a contract, okay? What they would need to do to answer your question, if the parents were not happy with us, was say that I mean to explain to you what I mean by a contract. What I mean by a contract is a commitment. And explain what a contract means to them. Would that help?
Yeah, I think so. Communication, talking about it. Yeah, I think that it would, both sides would meet in the middle, and I think it would create a better environment to live in. So I would agree with that. If everything in the household, there are no boundaries, no limitations, everything's all over the place.
Well, if there's chaos, yeah, if there's chaos. Yeah.
If there's chaos, then if it has to come down to an agreement and a contract, and if it works, then so be it, do it.
I mean, you can make a contract with yourself that as of right now, you will make your bed every morning. You can do that. That's not a problem. Our contracts are things that we make as commitments. These are things that we do as we grow up as adults. And, you can't do too much in this world without a contract.
Mm.
When you start your first job, you're going to have a contract. You've got to sign it. There's a code of conduct at school. You have to sign it.
Yep.
So it could happen at home too, couldn't it?
Definitely.
It's about order. It's about bringing order. It's about everybody playing their part, that you don't end up in a stuck state, that you don't end up in permanent conflict, and that you are listening and hearing each other. So formulating that contract is about talking to each other. So we come back to what we did originally, and it's about open communication. Do we agree that one of the biggest areas between teenagers and parents is open communication?
Yes.
Okay.
So to end off, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe and also check out the description below for our message of the day. You can join us next time when we will continue this topic and discuss the effect on different perspectives between teens and parents. And we hope to give you a clearer understanding of dealing with these challenges.
Well, that's a wrap from us for today. Signing off with love and light. See you all soon.